Have you ever felt like you're constantly busy? Checking off tasks, rushing around, but then at the end of the day, you still feel a bit, well, unfulfilled.
Oh, definitely. Like you're chasing quick fixes, maybe, instead of building something solid.
Exactly. It's like you're looking for that magic bullet, that one life hack.
A feeling so many of us share, I think. Especially with, everything online promising instant transformation.
It really is. And those quick fixes, they often just don't stick, do they? Leaves us right back where we started.
Mm-hmm.
That's why today we're doing a deep dive into a real classic, something that cuts through all that noise. Stephen R. Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Ah, yes. Published way back in '89, but still so relevant.
Totally. It's still a 5-star rated guide in personal development, leadership, you name it.
Right. And our mission here, drawing from a pretty comprehensive review of the book, is to give you a shortcut, sort of?
The shortcut to understanding the core stuff, yeah.
Exactly. We're pulling out the most important nuggets, those insights that maybe go a bit deeper than just the chapter titles. Things that lead to real effectiveness, better relationships, and, long-term success.
Because it's about building something more substantial, isn't it? A life based on character, on principles.
That's the core, a character-based, principle-centered life.
Okay, so let's unpack this then. The fundamental idea here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about quick hacks or just learning some new techniques, is it?
No, not at all. Covey's whole premise is that true effectiveness, the lasting kind, comes from within. It's about aligning your life with universal principles.
Like integrity, responsibility.
Yes, exactly. Integrity, responsibility, fairness, continuous growth, these timeless things. He has that famous quote, we see the world not as it is, but as we are.
Ah, right. The lens we look through.
Precisely. The real power of the book, the reason it stuck around, is that it focuses on changing your perspective, your fundamental way of seeing things, your paradigm.
So you change the paradigm, and that's what improves how you lead yourself, how you interact with others.
Exactly. It's an inside-out approach. Lasting external change starts with internal transformation. Not just tweaking behavior, but shifting your core.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's foundational.
Mm-hmm.
And the structure of the book, the habits themselves, they build on each other.
Right.
From the inside out.
Yep. Very logically sequenced. He talks about moving from private victories, mastering yourself, to public victories, which are about relationships, and then keeping it all going.
Right, the renewal part. Let's start with those private victories. Habits 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, so habit 1, be proactive.
You proactive. It sounds great, very empowering. Take responsibility for your life. But sometimes life throws really tough stuff at you. How does Covey address that? Doesn't it feel sometimes like you can't be proactive?
That's a really important question. He makes a key distinction. Reactive people are driven by feelings, conditions, circumstances. Proactive people, well, they're driven by values. It doesn't mean you ignore feelings or difficult circumstances, but it means recognizing that, as he put it, between stimulus and response is the freedom to choose.
That space between.
Yes. That's where your power lies. You choose your response. You focus on your circle of influence, the things you actually can do something about, rather than getting lost in the circle of concern, all the things you worry about but can't control.
Okay, so it's about focusing your energy where it counts. That's a powerful shift.
It really is.
And once you've got that proactive mindset, habit 2 is begin with the end in mind. This is where the personal mission statement comes in, right? Why is that so crucial?
It's crucial because, well, you can be incredibly efficient climbing a ladder, but what if the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall?
Right. Busy, but going nowhere important.
Exactly. This habit is about defining your destination first. What are your deepest values? What do you truly want your life to stand for? Covey encourages you to think about, like, your own funeral. What would you want people to say?
Wow, that's profound. Heavy, but profound.
It is, but it forces clarity. What matters most to me in the long run? It gives you that guiding why before you get caught up in the how or the what of daily tasks. It's about direction, not just speed.
Okay, direction first. And that clarity seems essential for the next one, habit 3. Put first things first. This isn't just to-do lists, is it?
No, it goes way beyond standard time management. It's about managing yourself based on the priorities you defined in habit 2. It's about importance, not just urgency.
Ah, the famous time management matrix, quadrants 1, 2, 3, 3, 3.
Exactly. And the key is focusing energy on quadrant 2.
Important, but not urgent. The stuff we know we should do. Yeah. Planning, learning, building relationships, preventing problems.
That often gets crowded out by the urgent stuff, right? The crises in quadrant first or the interruptions in quadrant three.
Yeah, the daily fires. So how do we actually do quadrant 2?
Covey's insight is that quadrant 2 activities are the high leverage ones. They might not scream for attention now, but investing time there prevents future crises and leads to long-term effectiveness. His advice: don't prioritize your schedule. Schedule your priorities.
Schedule your priorities. I like that. It flips it.
It does. It requires discipline to say no to urgent but unimportant things and carve out time for what truly matters based on your end in mind.
So these first 3 habits, be proactive. Begin with the end in mind. Put first things first. They really form that internal core, don't they?
Absolutely. That's the private victory. It's about building character, integrity, self-discipline, developing independence.
Getting your own house in order before you try to build bridges to others?
You got it. You can't have effective relationships or teamwork, what he calls interdependence, without first being effectively independent.
Okay, so that leads us perfectly into the public victory. Habits 4, 5, and 6. These are about how we interact with others.
Right. Starting with habit 4, think win-win.
Win-win. It sounds lovely, but, the real world often feels pretty competitive. Isn't it sometimes naive? Or maybe even weak?
That's a common reaction, but Covey argues win-win isn't just about being nice. It's actually the most effective long-term strategy.
How so?
It stems from an abundance mindset, believing there's plenty for everybody, that one person's success doesn't require another's failure. Contrast that with the scarcity mindset, which sees life as a zero-sum game.
Like a fixed pie. If I get a bigger slice, you get less.
Exactly. Win-win isn't about compromise, where everyone loses a bit. It's about looking for solutions that are mutually beneficial, expanding the pie for everyone. It's a total philosophy of human interaction, not just a technique. It requires courage and consideration.
Okay, an abundance mindset, that's key. And that philosophy seems vital for habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Why is this one described as so powerful for communication?
Because most of us just don't do it. We listen with the intent to reply, to fix, to judge, to get our own point across.
Guilty as charged sometimes.
We all are. Covey emphasizes empathetic listening, really truly trying to see the situation from the other person's frame of reference, understanding their needs, their concerns, their perspective before you present your own.
Like the doctor analogy he uses.
Exactly. Diagnose before you prescribe. How can you offer a good solution if you don't fully understand the problem from the patient's viewpoint? Empathetic listening builds trust and opens the door for real problem solving. You earn the right to be understood.
It takes real effort, especially when emotions are running high.
It does. It's probably one of the hardest habits to live consistently.
Okay, so once you understand, you've built trust, you're thinking win-win.
Yeah.
Then comes habit 6, synergize. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah, that's the essence. Synergy is about creative cooperation. It's what happens when people who trust each other, communicate openly, and value their differences work together.
So it's more than just compromise or even teamwork.
Definitely. Compromise is often 1 + 1 = 1.5. Synergy is about valuing the differences, different perspectives, different strengths, and using them to create new possibilities, new solutions that nobody thought of initially. A third alternative that's better than what anyone brought to the table alone.
So it requires that win-win thinking and that deep understanding from habit 5 to even happen.
Absolutely. Trust plus communication plus valuing differences is synergy. That's where real innovation often comes from. It's the peak of effective interdependence.
Okay, so we've gone from private victory to public victory. That leaves habit 7. Sharpen the saw, renewal. This one feels like it could easily get skipped when things get busy.
It often does. People see it as a luxury, maybe. But Covey argues it's essential for sustaining all the other habits.
What does sharpening the saw actually involve?
It means taking time for self-renewal in 4 key dimensions of your life: physical exercise, nutrition, rest, mental learning, reading, thinking, social emotional building relationships, service, empathy, and spiritual clarifying values, meditation, time in nature, whatever works for you in each area. It's holistic.
Very. The deeper insight is that if you don't regularly invest in yourself in these areas, your saw gets dull. You become less effective. You burn out. He says you are your most important investment. It's not selfish. It's necessary maintenance to keep performing at your best.
It makes sense. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. It fuels everything else.
So looking back at all 7, what really makes this book stand the test of time? Why is it still considered such a 55 classic?
I think primarily it's the focus on timeless principles. These aren't fads. Integrity, responsibility, synergy, These things are enduring.
Not just business jargon or quick productivity hacks.
Right. And it balances the personal and the professional beautifully. It applies just as much to your family life and inner peace as it does to leading a team. Plus, the framework itself, private victory, public victory renewal, gives you a clear path.
It's very structured.
Yeah, and it emphasizes building character first, self-awareness, leadership from the inside out. That's incredibly powerful. Okay, but no book is perfect. Are there common criticisms or maybe difficulties people encounter with it?
Sure. Some find Covey's writing style a bit dense or formal in places. It's not always a light read.
A bit academic sometimes.
Maybe a little. And the biggest thing, which isn't really a flaw in the book but a challenge for the reader, is that implementing these habits takes real work and time.
Right. This isn't a weekend read that magically transforms you Monday morning.
Definitely not. It's a philosophy to live by, a lifelong practice. It requires patience, reflection, consistent effort. So some might find that daunting.
That's fair. So thinking about who would really benefit from this deep dive and maybe picking up the book itself, who is it really for?
Honestly, it's got broad appeal. Leaders, managers, entrepreneurs, absolutely. But also students, professionals, parents. Anyone really looking for more clarity, integrity, and purpose.
People may be feeling a bit stuck. Or, like we said in the start, busy but unfulfilled.
Exactly. If you feel like you're just reacting to life, or maybe your work and values feel misaligned, this book provides a really solid, principle-centered framework to reorient yourself.
So the final verdict then? It really holds up because it's about who you are, fundamentally, not just ticking boxes or managing time better.
That's the heart of it. Covey gives you a compass, not a clock. It helps you navigate by your deepest values and principles, living life with intention, by design, rather than just by default in our often chaotic world.
A compass, not a clock.
Oh!
Like that. Okay, so after all this, here's a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. What's one small area in your life, just one where you could consciously try to shift your paradigm? Try to see things not just as they are, but as you are, through a more principle-centered lens. What new possibilities might open up if you did that?
That's a great question to reflect on. And if you want to keep exploring these kinds of ideas, there are other great books that connect well. Maybe something like Atomic Habits by James Clear for the practical side of building good routines, which ties into Habit 7.
Right, the how-to of habit formation.
Yeah. Or maybe The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which really digs into presence and proactivity. And Simon Sinek's Start with Why definitely echoes Covey's Habit 2. Begin with the end in mind.
Good suggestions. They all kind of build on these foundational principles, don't they?
They really do. Covey laid some serious groundwork.